Hello again, welcome back to Overexplaining. Today we have Tier 7. Sorry this took an extra week to get out. We had a recording to do last week, so yeah. Which that video will be coming out eventually, just waiting on people's POVs. So, yeah, here we go. Starting with Black Manta. All Tier 7s have 94.8% damage reduction, and Black Manta has 7.5 punch damage, 4 weapon damage, 30% impact damage, 0.5 jump height, and 7 fall resistance. Also has the Manta armor ability. The Manta armor ability gives him a few things. Firstly, it gives him the Manta Ray Blast. This is a charged beam which deals energy and fire damage and deals 7 damage in hit. It also charges and cools down in the same amount of time as Mysterio's. With it having a slight explosion at the end to deal extra damage to enemies like around the beam instead of right in it. But it's a very small extra range. Some details with the beam are also that while it's charging, you can see the lights on the back start to glow to signify how charged it is. It also has some particles in the eyes while it's charging, making it just more visible. Next up, he has the Toggle Blade. This increases his punch damage from 7.5 to 9.5. Just making it a little stronger in melee, but not the strongest. Next up, he has Controlled Flight, which acts just like most other characters' controlled flights, where you just move like this and can boost. Although the Manta Ray Blast cannot be done when boosting. It can be done at any other time, but not when boost flying. When the boost flight instantly ends, if you have it already charged and blocks from pressing the keybind. Next up, he has Water Breathing. This simply just makes it so that he can breathe underwater as if he had the water breathing effect at all times. Not much, but it's pretty useful. Strictly if you need to explore underwater, if you have like a mod for water or anything. Although, since it uses vanilla lighting, it's like impossible to see even at full bright. So, that is something to note. And the final ability for him is Projectile Immunity. Where are you? Okay, we'll go and show the bow first, I guess. Doing it a little out of order, it's fine. This makes him immune to bullets. Being completely immune to any bullet damage. He's also immune to things like arrows, with them just bouncing off. With me taking no damage to them. Craft Black Manta, it takes 44 tritium, and he requires the Defense 2, Flight, Group 3, Melee 2, and Ranged 3 nodes to unlock. For his augments, Black Manta has damage reduction, punch damage, weapon damage, fall resistance, sprint speed, and impact damage. First getting fall resist with iron. Then again, just fall resist. Then all but punch and damage reduction. Then for the first level of damage reduction, they get 0.473%. Then also maxing his sprint speed at Vibranium. And lastly, for 2 levels of damage reduction, they get 0.867% more. And maxing out all of the stats at Dwarf Star, obviously. Well, this makes him a pretty strong and high damage suit, but He does have some limitations due to him only really having the Manta Ray blast from range. Although it is a very powerful attack. The next suit to cover is Black Panther. He has 7 punch damage, 2.5 weapon damage, 2 jump height, 100% fall resistance, 45% spin speed, 0.5 jump step height, the heart-shaped herbs, vibranium weaves, and the vibranium weave suit abilities. For the heart-shaped herbs, he gets a few things. Firstly, he gets leaping, just allowing him to leap further and higher, just making him a little bit more mobile. Secondly, he has 200% regen, allowing him to heal 3 times faster than normal. He also has immunity to the nausea, poison, and wither effects, just making him unable to get those effects. And lastly, it gives him arrow catching. But it only blocks certain arrows due to an ability in the vibranium weave suit. So I'll be showing that once we get to the vibranium weave suit, which, speaking of, we're at now. The first thing that the vibranium weave suit gives him is the toggle claws. This simply increases his punch damage from 7 to 10.5, and adds some pixels to the hands. A very small detail, but still something to keep your eye out for in case of, since it is such a drastic increase in his damage. Next, he has fire resistance for 3 seconds. This acts just like heat waves, where for a few seconds after stepping in fire, you still take damage, but you don't actually stay on fire when you get out. This lasts for 3 seconds, just with the same time as heat waves. But as soon as those 3 seconds are up, you just stay on fire, causing it to be a pretty limiting thing due to it being on such a short time, but still being very useful. Next up, he has damage reduction for both fire and explosion damage, taking 50% from both. So from the melee, he takes 3 damage. The flamethrower, he takes 2. And the fireball, he takes 3. So from the melee, he takes 7. From the flame blast, he takes 5. And from the fireball, he takes 6. The heat gun deals 2 to Black Panther, deals 5 to a normal player. The Manta Ray blast deals 3 to Black Panther, and it deals... I let go too soon. And it deals 7 to a normal player. And then the heat vision deals 3 to Black Panther, and it deals 7 to a normal player. So then the explosive arrow deals 6 to Black Panther, and it deals 10 to a normal player. Although the arrows do have a lot more variation in damage than other attacks. And Deathstroke's grenades deal 14 to Black Panther, and they deal... It says 20, but it's actually 30 damage to a normal player. It's just... he died. He also has projectile immunity, which acts a little different than others' projectile immunity due to him also having arrow catching, which you'll see now. So he is immune to bullet damage. Not for them. So he is immune to normal arrows and also most trick arrows, just bouncing right off. However, due to him having a arrow catching and certain arrows being able to pierce through projectile immunities, then he's able to catch most of the one that pierces, such as vibranium arrows. So if I'm looking at him, I catch it. But if I look away, then I take the damage. But I'm still able to just catch his arrow pretty easily. To craft Black Panther, it takes 40 tritium and 16 vibranium ingots, and he requires the Defense 2, Group 3, Melee 2, Regeneration 1, Traversal 1, Vibranium, and Wakanda nodes to unlock. For his augments, Black Panther gets damage reduction, punch damage, weapon damage, jump height, and sprint speed. Getting nothing in iron or gold, and then getting damage reduction, punch, weapon damage, and sprint speed in gold. Then getting all in vibranium. Maxing his sprint speed at 65%. And lastly, showing us three levels in damage reduction, giving you 1.2% damage reduction. And then maxing the rest of his stats. Making Black Panther a very mobile suit and great in melee, but has no ranged options, so can pretty easily be outranged by suits that have things that can hurt him. But in cases where they are something like an archer, then they can't really do much, unless if they have like explosive arrows or anything. But even then, Black Panther is immune to that, is resistant to explosive damage, so yeah. It's a very hard suit to stop in a pursuit. Next up, and the final X-Men character of the mod is Colossus. He is firstly 1.3 times taller than a normal player. I see you. It's fine. He is firstly 1.3 times taller than a normal player, making him very tall. He also has 9 punch damage, 1 jump height, 8 fall resistance, 1 knockback, and 0.5 step height. He also has an additional full heart due to his scale. As you saw, he has no max health in his stats, that's just from his scale. He also has the organic steel power, which only gives passives. So firstly, the organic steel gives him, if I could go first person, gives him leaping, allowing him to jump a little bit further than normal. But it's a pretty low leaping. It's not as low as someone like Deathstroke's, but it's also nothing crazy due to him not having any enhanced movement other than his scale. Colossus also has fire immunity and metal skin, so he does not light on fire in normal fire. And if I grab a lava bucket, then you can see the metal skin start to empty, and the metal parts of the skin actually start to glow. But it's only the metal, not the shirt. You're glowing pretty damn bright when it's emptied. Although, something I had forgotten to mention about metal skin in the previous times I'd mentioned it, there was a neat little feature with it. When you step into water, it instantly cools down, instantly refilling the bar, making it a very easy way to just quickly get back metal skin and not be on fire. But it's situationally, depending on the location. So like if you're in the desert, it's not going to be very useful, but still a good thing to note. And lastly, he has projectile immunity. Again, this is going to be a thing for a lot of the suits here. So he has complete immunity to things like bullets, I don't know why we're so far over this way, but here's bullets. Go get the I'll grab your bow. I'm faster than you. Shit. I'm more mobile. Do you not have a bow? Okay. He is also immune to arrows. Why is that green? Why is it green? What? Wait. Oh, you don't have the boots. That was weird. He's also immune to arrows. Just with them just bouncing off as usual. Them doing absolutely nothing. And also, obviously, once again, being immune to Killer Frost's icicles and Senior Cactus's spikes. Which I keep forgetting to mention because they're so forgettable, but yeah, all projectile immunity has immunity to those. To craft Colossus, it takes 37 tritium, and he requires the Defense 2, Group 3, Melee 2, and Traversal 1 nodes. For his augments, Colossus has damage reduction, punch damage, jump height, fall resistance, sprint speed, and knockback. Getting fall resistance in iron and gold, and then getting all but jump height in gold titanium. With him maxing everything in Dwarf Star and tying his knockback with Crossbones. But Crossbones gets his 2.5 from the start. Meanwhile, Colossus needs to augment his. Finishing him off as a pretty strong suit in melee and somewhat mobile with the sprint speed and jump height, but still not the strongest due to him only being melee. Next up is Iron Man. He has 8 punch damage, 1 weapon damage, and 8 fall resistance in the Iron Man armor ability. He has the I'm pretty sure he has like the least attributes of any suit in base mod. Only having the damage reduction and his melee damage and fall resistance. But he's also one of the most outdated suits in the mod. With his most recent addition just giving him controlled flight like a year ago. And before that, his last update was giving him the sentry mode, which was many years ago, like before 2.0, which was in 2020, I think, if I remember right. Just checked, it was 2022 that 2.0 released. But the sentry mode is still way older than that. It is a very old ability, so this is a very outdated suit. So, yeah. Hopefully Fisk updates it eventually, but that's up to him. No one can control him. It's Fisk. He does whatever he wants. For his abilities, he has only a few. First of all, he has obviously metal skin and fire immunity, with it acting just like Colossus's, except I get the lava bucket. The glow after applied to the whole suit instead of just parts of it. This being the first suit that's like that so far that I've shown. He also has a mask toggle, which acts differently on the alts, but for base, it has the retractable mask that he has in Civil War, with it folding into a few pieces and then reattaching all together again. He also has water breathing, allowing him to breathe perfectly fine in water when the mask is closed. But when he tackles the mask, obviously he starts to drown. He also has space breathing, which, again, when the mask is closed, he can breathe in space or quantum realm, but not. But when it's open, he starts to suffocate. Next up, he has aim, which is actually the repulsor blast. This changes the texture on the arm from just a hand to then the repulsor. It's a pretty quick switch, but it's still slow enough to notice it. It basically just makes it so that it's noticeable when you're actually aiming, and obviously playing the animation is helpful for that, but yeah. Which, when you're aiming, you simply have to right-click and it fires a repulsor blast. The repulsor blast deals 12 damage and has a 1.5 second cooldown. So if I'm just holding the button, you can see it takes a decent bit for it to fire again. But it has pretty high damage, so it's pretty worth it. Next up, he has controlled flight, which, as always, like everyone else's, having a boost and all that. But he can't do any abilities when he does the boost. Some characters who have boosts only lose some keybinds, such as Black Manta just losing the Wave Blast. But Iron Man loses literally all of his things. He can't Sentry Mode, he can't Repulsor, he can't do anything when he's doing the boost, which I feel should be changed. He also has barrel rolls like Falcon. I suck. Just allowing him to dodge some things. I actually tried to make an Iron Man video, but Shoot the Thrill was copyright claimed, so I couldn't upload it. Like it was full blocked. So, yeah. Little story on my part of trying to use Iron Man. Failed to make a video with him. So, yeah. He also has the dives that Falcon has. But I believe he has less dive retention than... or, I can't tell. I don't fully remember, but he has some... he has dives. So, yeah. He also has a wholly unique ability, which was added when controlled flight was added, I believe. Or it was added when Falcon was updated, which was in the Speedster update. This being the superhero landing, which you just saw me do on accident. Basically, when you boost into the ground, if you let go of the W key or the sprint key right before you land, you do the superhero landing. It has a very long time before it stops being the superhero landing, but it's still a very useful thing. It also prevents all fall damage, as you just saw I died, but beforehand I wasn't, because the thing blocks fall damage. So, doesn't matter how fast you go at the ground, you will not die if you just nail a superhero landing. And lastly, he has Sentry Mode, which it's a little complex, but not super complex. So the Sentry Mode acts somewhat like a Minecraft dog. When you press it, the suit is then placed into the world, with it ejecting you back to whatever direction you press the button. You were looking when you pressed the button. But then if you left click, then it opens up and you just walk back into it to put it back on. Or you can shift click to start flying, but that does nothing, really. I don't even think the basic abilities work when it's flying. But it's useful if you eject when you're flying, because then it automatically starts flying, so you can just stop it from flying. But, as I was saying, before I got distracted on how it works, it acts sort of like a Minecraft dog. So if I get attacked, it starts aiming and shoots repulsor blast at whoever attacked me. Which you can just stop it by clicking on it again. Can you wait until we get to experiment such and that? But if I click it again, then it starts attacking again. Until I sentry mode it again. Resetting its AI. Or if I attack something, it attacks it automatically. Which you can have as many sentries out as you'd like. So if I just sentry mode, then I can keep sentry moding as many suits as I'd like, no matter what. There is no limit other than what the server you're running is capable of handling in terms of entities. And the last thing he has is projectile immunity. So he is immune to things such as bullets, them obviously just doing nothing. And he's also immune to arrows, with them obviously just bouncing right off. To craft Iron Man, it takes 39 tritium and 16 gold titanium, and he requires that's the wrong person, the Defense 2, Flight, Group 3, Melee 1, Range 2, and Stark Tech nodes to unlock. With augments, he has damage reduction, punch damage, weapon damage, fall resistance, and knockback. Iron getting him fall resistance, then again fall resistance, and then getting damage reduction and gold, and then the rest in vibranium. And lastly, maxing everything in Dwarf Star. Making him pretty good for, making him somewhat useful in melee due to his, high punch damage and now having knockback. But he's still much better off just using, like, the repulsors and sentry mode and stuff. For his ults, Iron Man has the Mark 45, Mark 46 Classic, Mark 47, and Mark 47 Classic. They all act the same as base functionally, but visually they have one change which they all share. The mask toggle for the base has it fold into this full retractable thing. But the other alts only lift up the faceplate. This was actually the first mask toggle that Iron Man had for all of his suits, but Fisk eventually changed the base to that one, but kept it for the other alts. It simply just lifts up the faceplate and has it be a model there, resting on his head. Which is actually the same on all the other alts as well. The final speedster of the mod that we'll be showing, as he is the highest tier 1, is Savitar. He has 7 base speed levels, 6 punch damage, 0.5 weapon damage, 1 jump height, and 4.5 fall resistance. He's also 1.2 times taller than a normal player, making him not quite as tall as Colossus, but still pretty tall. So if I were to grab a holographic suit stand, which show the actual heights of the characters, then you can see Savitar is that tall, and Colossus is just ever so slightly taller. So he's ever so slightly shorter than Colossus, but he's still way taller than a normal player. Still like an entire head above a normal player, so. Well, a little under a head, but still. So firstly, he has the base Speed Force abilities. He has Super Speed and Slow Motion Vision, which he shares with all other speedsters. But due to him having that slightly increased height, he actually is the fastest speedster of the mod except for against Trajectory. But Trajectory has that speed disintegration, so they can be slower. causing them to walk at 41 kilometers an hour and run at 43 with one at 53 with one bar. But then if I grab Barry, then you notice he walks at 39 and sprints at 50. Causing it so no matter how many speed levels you have, you won't outrun a Savitar going at the same amount as you. So even if I use Savitar with only 4 bars, he will still be faster than any other speedster, except for maybe Trajectory with Max Augment. But again, that's only with Max Augment, and even then, Disintegration. They also, as always, have the regen and the arrow catching of the other speedsters. He also has the Savitar armor ability, which does a few things. Firstly, he has the toggle spike, which is just a blade toggle. This causes the damage to go from 6 to 8, just allowing him to have even more damage, which obviously he can use while speeding as well, to just deal a ton of damage in very quick succession, especially with his speed. He also has metal skin and fire immunity again. So if I go survival, then he's obviously immune to fire. All that. Although, for some reason, when you actually have the metal skin, it's like yellow. Unlike most others, where it's a sort of green, whereas most other metal skins are more like a yellow, or not a yellow. They're more like a pale. It's probably just like the math of how the visual works, since it's done with like some sort of math thing. I don't know the specifics, but either way, that's generally how it goes. He looks really bad with the metal skin triggered. He looks sick. Also, he has like the easiest time of getting to water for the metal skin to refill out of any suit that has metal skin. Next up, he has a damage reduction to cold damage by 50%. But he also has projectile immunity, which makes it useless against one suit, which I'll show now. So, one character who gets a little screwed over is Killer Frost, because not only does he have the cold resistance, but he's also projectile immune, so their icicles just bounce right off of them. So, yeah. But her other things do still deal damage to her. So the melee deals 4, and the spike deals 5. And obviously the icicles deal nothing, as I mentioned. The melee deals 8 damage to a normal player. The spike deals 10, and obviously the icicles will deal like 12, but obviously Savitar isn't affected by that. The cold beam deals 4 damage, and the cryo grenade deals 5. And to a normal player, the cold beam deals 7, and the cryo grenade deals like 8, 10. It's hard to say sometimes because the knockback. And Batman's freeze grenade deals 8 damage to Savitar, and it deals 16 damage to a normal player. And as I mentioned, he also has projectile immunity, which you saw with Killer Frost Spike, but as with the other projectile immunities, So I am completely immune to bullet damage. And I'm obviously immune to arrows as well. But obviously I catch them when I'm, looking at it. But if I just look away, they just bounce it off. And since vibranium arrows can hit me due to my projectile immunity, if I look away, I obviously take the damage, but I can obviously also still catch them. To craft Savitar, it takes 49 tritium, and he requires the Defense 2, Group 3, Melee 1, and Speed Force nodes to unlock, and requires the Barry Allen suit, as he is a Time Remnant, and CW lore is all confusing and pain. For his augments, Savitar gets damage reduction, punch damage, weapon damage, jump height, fall resistance, and step height. He is, if I remember correctly, the only speedster that doesn't augment his speed levels. But he also has that increased height, which increases his speed anyway. Anyway, for Iron and Gold, he gets fall resistance, and then gets step height. And then all but damage reduction. And then maxes everything at Dwarfstar. Making him an extremely powerful suit, even if his augments aren't the best. He still now has a 10 damage spike. Now can step really high. Like, really high. He is just a really strong suit. Even if he isn't the... For alts, he has the Flash alt, which simply replaces the lightning. Firstly, it replaces the sounds with Barry Allen sounds. But it also turns the lightning orange, same color as Barry's. And he also has the RGB alt. This alt can only be unlocked through the... This alt can only be unlocked through the Was It Worth It achievement, which requires you to get 30 speed XP to unlock it, which can be done through the Cosmic Treadmill. This is a meme alt. It changes two things. Actually, three technically with the skin itself, but firstly, it changes the lightning sound. It's Neon Cat. It's just straight up Neon Cat. That's all this is. Which I don't know where Bush is. That's causing me to not be able to slow down time, but obviously the sound works with slow motion, which honestly sounds pretty nice. And obviously also it turns the lightning from the basic lightnings one color that they usually are to RGB, causing it to change colors over time. Changing the same as the suit changes. Just being basically a music thing. It's not much. Next up, in the final batch of suits for this video, is the spiders. Starting with the MCU suit. MCU Spider-Man has 8.5 punch damage, 50% impact damage, 2.5 jump height, 12 fall resistance, 45% sprint speed, and 0.5 step height. The spiders are all pretty similar, but I'm still going to go through all of them. There are just one ability that I won't be explaining in this video, which I'll explain when I get to it. So, firstly, he had the spider physiology power, which gives a few things. Firstly, it gives leaping, which just allows him to leap pretty far, which can be increased when you're swinging, allowing you to jump even further and higher. All the spiders have the same amount of leaping, by the way. He also gets 300% regen, healing the same as a speedster, so 4 times than anyone else. He also gets wall crawling, which is an unfinished feature, but he can still crawl on the ceiling. But you can't actually crawl on walls, only ceilings. So it doesn't matter what I do, when I look at the wall, I can't crawl on it. But I can still crawl on the roof. So, to activate wall crawling, let me head to a, find space. To wall crawl, you simply look at the roof and crouch. You don't have to web zip or anything, but if the roof is too far, then you might have to, but either way, you just crouch when you just look at the roof and crouch when you're near it. You have to be looking at it though. You can't look down and do it. You have to have it at least somewhat in your view. Also, if you keep crouching, it will like keep putting you in crawl if you keep looking at the ceiling. But if you look away, then it's fine. He also has slow motion vision, which acts a little different than speedster slow mo vision. Speedsters are a toggle. This is a hold. So as soon as I let go of the button, it stops. I'm a little too close to Bushman, so if I go over here, then you notice it works fine, but it's a hold. So you have to actively do it in order for it to work. He also has arrow catching. So he has arrow catching, allowing him to just catch arrows when he looks at whatever shoots them, being pretty basic. Next up, he has the MCU web shooters. So for this, he has a few things. First, he has the equipment wheel, which has the webs, with each web acting a little different. Sticky webs don't actually deal damage, instead only slow down enemies when you hit them in the leg. It's a pretty significant slow, though. So obviously, if he isn't webbed up, then he can walk around at perfectly normal speed. No, don't jump, that doesn't affect it. So, obviously, he walks at normal speed. If I hit him anywhere except for the legs, he doesn't get a slowdown. One of the webs apparently hit his leg, but, you know. But then, when I hit his legs... Could you hold still? When I hit his legs, then obviously it's a very big slowdown. But the webs do dissolve over time, so they are only for a short period of time. But they're a very effective slow. They aren't a full stop, and if someone can fly, then it doesn't really affect them, but it's still significant enough that it's an effective thing. Next up, he has the impact web, which just is a basic damage dealer. It's just a web that deals damage. That's all it is. It doesn't slow, it doesn't do anything special, it is purely just deal damage. Next up is the rapid web. This is similar to the impact web, but it shoots out 4 webs shoots out like 5 webs at once, all dealing damage, causing it to be a pretty effective damage dealer, especially with its really quick recharge. But the webs do deal slightly less damage than the other web types, so it's not as effective. And lastly is the ricochet web. This web simply just bounces off the first surface it hits and then instantly sticks to whatever hits next. So if I hit the ground, then it sticks to... If it didn't bug out, then it would stick to the wall instantly. And it can obviously bounce back at you. But it doesn't deal damage until you're a certain few blocks away from it. And then it starts actually dealing damage to the Spider-Man who shoots it. But there is a, but that's only if you're, like, 10 blocks away or so. So I start getting hit here, but then when I take a step forward, I'm perfectly fine. Perfectly fine here. And when I just step back onto this block, I start taking damage. So it's a pretty long range until you start getting hurt. So you don't usually have to worry about it. You can usually just shoot it and not worry about it, but sometimes you do have to worry about hitting yourself, but it's only if, like, you go into the shot. And next up for the web shooter's power is web swinging. This is the only ability I won't be explaining and over-explaining, technically. I'm going to be uploading a few videos after I finish with the rest of over-explaining to explain only web swinging. So, but I will still explain a few things. So first you fire the web with right click and release it with left click. And you also have web zip with ability 2, which just pulls you to wherever you shoot it. Although there is some combat applications for these. So for the swing web, which is this one, I just call it the swing web since that's what it's primarily used for. When you hit a mob, it allows you to pull them around and drag them. They also can't, like, escape it as easily. And if they're at, like, the edge of the web, it pulls them back to you when you click. It's also more effective. It's also a more effective pull the further away they are. So if you were to fly away pretty far and stay there, then when I hit him, then it's a much more effective pull than if he were, say, like, right over here compared to me being here. So with him there, it's a lot less of a pull. The other thing he has with it, with combat for web, is the web zip, which I know is also a movement thing, but all of this is. Can you come down to the ground? So the web zip is actually able to use the impact damage on the thing, which I know normally is, like, deals damage based on, like, how much damage you would take when you fly into a wall, but it acts differently here. When you web zip at a mob, it pulls you to that mob, pulling you exactly to them. Okay, if you could not. Not that that works. That works, actually. With it pulling you to their, like, exact position. And if... Are you on? No. And obviously dealing damage to them if you go far enough distance and are in the air. So if he, like, goes down to the ground instead of flying up, please. Okay, if you could also stop, like, trying to die. Where's the heal? There it is. So if I were to jump and web into him, it would deal damage. But if I web zip into him from the ground, it doesn't deal damage because I'm not airborne. Just allowing you to deal some extra damage even without having web swinging active, so you can shoot out. So for example, you can slow them down with sticky webs and then web zip into them. Can you stop dropping stuff to me, please? And thank you. Like, really? Stop. So you can... It's okay. It's because that's on the left click. Or right click. So, for example, you can, as an example of a strategy, you could sticky web them to slow them down and then jump and web zip into them to have a very easy web zip target. Or you can pull them to you and then web zip into them as they're being pulled. If I was far enough away. That's just, like, a few examples of some combat strategies. Are you creative? No, I just suck. So there's a few different ways you can use the swing web and web zip in combat, but it's all about being creative with how you do it. You could do a basic strategy of just, like, spamming out webs from the utility belt, or you could be more creative with, like, using web zips and swinging webs to just really control how your opponent moves. It's all on you to be creative with how you use it. And the final thing for MCU Spider-Man, which is the most unique thing any of the spiders have, is the web wings. These are basically just gliding, but there is one thing that sets it apart. So you can simply just double tap space to do it, or you can use the key bind for it, which instantly activates it or deactivates it. Although, one thing, and obviously, if you've seen my videos using the MCU suit or the Civil War suit from Raimi's Heroes Update, then you'll know that it actually preserves momentum pretty well. So if I were to swing, then you can notice it preserves a lot of the momentum I just had. Also, the reason why it's actually a funky is when you have web swinging active, you actually can't normally activate gliding, no matter how much I press space. You probably can't hear it, but like, here, I am spamming space. It is not working. I have to activate the web wings, because when you have web swinging toggled, for some reason a lot of abilities just don't function. And if they do, then they bug out a lot. Or like increase speed way too much. It's a whole mess. Also, it's slightly for balance, because it would likely just combine both of the speeds together, which it's already fast enough when you just do this. It's fast enough when you do that and don't die. So yeah. Something to definitely just remember. That is all the web wings ability does, is just gives him gliding. But it opens the door so much for both combat if you want to do a quick mix-up. Like if you want to just like stop all your momentum, then you can just do that. Or if you want to preserve your momentum over a long distance from a leap. Basically just really nice for movement. And obviously it keeps the impact damage from your scent. And this acts exactly like Batman's. To craft Spider-Man, it takes 46 tritium, and he requires the Group 3, Melee 1, Object Manipulation, Regeneration 2, Spider-Verse, which is a node unique to only the spiders, Stark Tech, and Traversal 2. And for his augments, he gets damage reduction, punch damage, jump height, fall resistance, sprint speed, and impact damage. Getting firstly fall resistance 2 times. Then getting impact damage along with that. Then all but sprint speed. And maxing everything out at Dwarf Star. With this making him a very powerful suit. With him also being one of the most mobile spiders. Granted, it's a very close competition between the other three, but just the web wings make him one of the fastest suits. And obviously him being able to just deal so much punch damage and have so much mobility makes him a extremely powerful suit. Even if he's not the most powerful, he's still extremely powerful. And he also has 3 alts. Firstly is the Stark suit from Civil War and Homecoming, with none of the suits changing anything other than the textures, by the way. The Integrated suit from Far From Home and the start of No Way Home. And the Integrated suit from the end of No Way Home. With obviously the base suit being the final swing suit from the end of No Way Home. The next spider to cover is the PS4 Spider-Man. He has 8 punch damage, 50% impact damage, 2 jump height, 13 fall resistance, 45% sprint speed, and 0.5 jump height. He also has the PS4 web shooters. He obviously keeps all the other abilities from the spider physiology, since all of them share it. But he also has the unique web shooters. Firstly, only having 6 sticky webs compared to MCU's 8. Having 8 impact webs, being the most impact webs of any suit. I believe having the most offensive webs of any spider. Having 1 rapid web again, and having 5 ricochet webs. He has no webs unique to him, but he's still plenty strong. Ow. And obviously, he has web swinging, which, again, I'll explain in the extra video, but it acts the exact same as the MCU web swing, as web swing is mostly a hard-coded feature in terms of how the calculation works and all that. You can change, hero packs are able to change things such as like web cooldowns or web range, but none of the base suits change any features of web swing to make the transition between all the spiders as easy as possible. And obviously to make it so that it's very consistent, as they are all the same version of, they're all the same Spider-Man, with them all being Peter Parker, just different universes. And obviously he has no unique movement thing like MCU, as he is just, as Craft PS4 Spider-Man, it takes 45 to Tritium, and he requires the Group 3, Melee 1, Object Manipulation, Regeneration 2, Spider-Verse, and Traversal 2 nodes. For augments, he gets damage reduction, punch damage, jump height, fall resistance, sprint speed, and impact damage. Getting first impact and fall resistance for the first 2 levels. Giving him, I believe, the most impact damage of any spider, and with him only having fall resistance and impact damage for the first 3 levels. Then getting everything in sprint speed, in vibranium, sorry. With him having the second highest sprint speed of any spider and having the most impact damage of 100%, which is very effective with the web dip strategies I was talking about earlier. And having, I think, the most damage reduction of any spider? I may be corrected on that later in this video, though. Next up is the Spider-Man from the Raimi movies. He has organic web shooters, which just means the utility belt again. But he also has 8.5 punch damage, 50% impact damage, 2 jump height, 11 fall resistance, 40% sprint speed, and 0.5 step height. So, as always with the webs, he has 12 sticky webs and 3 impact webs. He has the most sticky webs of any spider, by a long shot, as most have at most 8, I believe, with MCU. So he is a very the only difference between him and the other spiders is that, as I said before, all the spiders are basically the same except for like alts and their stats and the amount of webs they have. So this section of the video is pretty easy, but when I'm explaining the web swinging itself in the extras video, you'll notice why I'm not explaining that bit. To craft Raimi Spider-Man, it takes 43 to Tritium, and he requires the... That's the wrong one. He requires the Group 3, Melee 1, Object Manipulation, Generation 2 Spider-Verse and Traversal 2 nodes. For his augments, Raimi Spider-Man gets damage reduction, punch damage, weapon jump height, fall resistance, sprint speed, and impact damage. Getting 2 levels in fall resistance, then jump height, fall resistance, and impact damage, then all but sprint speed. Making him with him only having a 10% sprint speed bonus, making him the slowest spider on foot. Still like one of the fastest suits, but still the slowest spider. But I believe he has the highest jump height. Never mind, he's died. What is he best with then? I think he's best with just spamming webs. All the spiders have some sort of a niche. I think Raimi's is meant to be just the amount of sticky webs he has. He also has one alt, the Cool Youth Pastor alt, which is locked behind the Pizza Time achievement, which just requires you to craft a masonry oven. It's really just like normal clothes, but with a Spider-Man mask. I'm pretty sure it's a reference to No Way Home. But I mean, it's just normal clothes, but you have a Spider-Man mask on. It's pretty basic, but it's still nice. And the final spider and suit for today is the TASM suit. He has 7.5 punch damage, 50% impact damage, 2.5 jump height, 13 fall resistance, 50% sprint speed, and 0.5 step height. So for his web shooters, he has 10 sticky webs and 5 impact webs. Craft him, it takes 42 Tritium gems, and he requires the Group 3, Melee 1, Object Manipulation, Regeneration 2, Spider-Verse, and Traversal 2 nodes. And the augments his damage reduction, punch damage, jump height, fall resistance, sprint speed, and impact damage. First getting fall resistance, then impact damage, then punch damage, then sprint speed and damage reduction, with him having the least punch damage of any spider of only 9.5. But he also is the most mobile, with 70% sprint speed, with the next highest being 65% on PS4. Making him a very mobile suit, and very agile, but having the least damage of any spider. He also has the TASM 1 alt, which just changes the look to TASM 1. It's also a very pink color. And that is the end of Overexplaining Tier 7. Hope you enjoyed. This was very fun. We'll be hopefully posting the tutorial on web swinging once I finish with the Overexplaining series with the Tier 10 episode. So be on the lookout for that. I know I definitely skipped over a large part of why these suits are so complicated, but that will be coming soon. So hope you enjoyed. Bye.